Chapter 9. The forest did not welcome her. It endured her. Martha was moving through the evergreen jungle of the elven heartland like a bloodstain on a silk tapestry. Every her step was a struggle of will, a battle against the very air that seemed to reject her presence. Inside her, the power she had torn from the 12 archmages of Dartan was screaming. It was a massive wave of raw, jagged energy she had shoved into her own body, an amount that was never meant to be held by anyone. Holding that much power was incroyable, but it was also impossible. She was a living anomaly, a biological miracle of pure, stubborn evil. The stolen mana was volatile, leaking from her skin as a pale, unhealthy light that was scorching the silver ferns to ash the moment she brushed past them. She wasn't just tired, she was bleeding magically. The energy was literally tearing through her cells, seeking an exit, trying to return to the world. Every heartbeat was a gamble against her own internal explosion. Her skin felt too tight. Her veins were pulsing with a light that shouldn't be there, and her vision was constantly blurred by a white-hot haze of mana. C'est ridicule, she hissed through her clenched teeth, leaning against a tree, which bark shivered at her touch. She was dying, and she knew it. The consequence of her victory at the royal castle was a slow, agonizing disintegration. The deeper she pressed into the woods, the more the trees themselves seemed to shrink. These were the great sentinels, massive titans with silver-white barks that felt more like bone than wood. Their roots ran deep into the power lines of the world, and their canopy was so thick that the ground below lived in a perpetual emerald twilight. Woven between their branches, hundreds of meters above the forest floor, were the structures of the elven capital. It was a city of living wood and crystallized starlight, a place where the architecture was sang into existence rather than built. The air here tasted of rain, moss, and ancient songs, but as Martha approached the great root, the massive trunk that served as the primary gateway to the upper city, the music of the forest silenced. The birds went quiet. The rhythmic clicking of the insects ceased. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. 6 elven guards dropped from the branches above, landing with the weightless grace of falling leaves. They were draped in armor made of dragon scale and moon silver. Their long spears were tipped with emerald glass that was humming with a soft green light. Their eyes, sharp as flint, didn't hide their hatred. To them, she was a predator, a red shadow that brought nothing but hunger and the stink of human conflict. "I am here for the king," Martha rasped. Her voice sounded like it was grinding stones, raw and painful. A pulse of unstable energy rippled from her, the sheer heat of it making the guard's spears hiss. One of them leveled his weapon at her throat, the tip glowing brighter in response to the massive, shimmering output she radiated. "Halt, vampire," the leader commanded. His voice was melodious but hard. "You carry the scent of 1,000 deaths. You will not stain the great root with your presence." Martha let out a jagged, dry laugh. "No. You will move, or I will let this power go right here. I am leaking the mana of 12 archmages, and I will burn this forest to the roots if I am not seen by Tondil. Comprenez-vous?" The guards exchanged a look of profound unease. They could see the decay, the way her skin looked translucent, the way the air warped around her as the stolen mana escaped her control. They could feel the heat radiating from her like a furnace. If she detonated, the great root and half the city above would be scorched to ashes. After a tense silence, the leader signaled for his men to stand down. "Follow," he commanded. "But know this, the king's patience is shorter than the life of a human." The ascent was a blur of spiraling paths and bridges made of intertwined vines. Martha felt the city's pulse. It was steady, slow, and deep, a biological clock that had been ticking since before the first human discovered magic. It disgusted her. It was too peaceful, too stagnant. It was a world that refused to change, hiding behind its leaves while the white static of the department slowly erased the horizons of the other worlds. At the very summit, in a hall where the ceiling was the open sky and the floor was a single, massive emerald leaf the size of a courtyard, sat King Tondil. He was a being of profound stillness. His white hair was cascading over robes woven from spider dreams. He looked at Martha and his green eyes didn't show pity, only the clinical observation of a king looking at a failing weapon. "You are a walking disaster, Martha," Tondil said. His voice was like the wind through high branches. "The power you stole from Dardan is eating you alive. You are like a cup trying to hold an ocean. It is a wonder you haven't vanished into a cloud of sparks already." "I didn't come for your wonder, mon roi," Martha replied, swaying on her feet. She clutched her stomach. Her fingers dug into the fabric of her red velvet dress. The fabric was charred in places where her sweat had turned to steam. "I need the 10, now. My strength is failing and I have a spire to climb. If I don't stabilize this energy, I will detonate before I reach the first floor." Tondil leans forward, with his green eyes narrowing. "My mages are the lifeblood of this forest. They spend centuries weaving the silver bark and the emerald leaves. To give you the essence is to weaken our own borders. Why should I sacrifice my children to stabilize a vampire who is clearly dying? Give me one reason that does not involve the threat of your own destruction." Martha forces herself to stand straight, ignoring the scream of her nerves. "Because if I die, the White Order wins. They have the gold, Tondil. They call it the Vessel Program. They've bottled a simian soul on level 81 of the Nexus, and they are using it to rewrite the worlds. Once they finish with the Spire, they won't need to negotiate with you. They won't need your silver trees or your ancient songs. They will simply erase your forest to make room for their laboratories." She steps forward, with a single drop of liquid mana falling from her chin and burning a hole through the emerald floor. "You give me the 10 because I am the only one who has the knowledge and capability to use it to tear that spire down. I am the only shield you have left. C'est vrai." A silence falls over the hall. Tondil is looking out over his twilight city at the thousands of lights in the branches that represent a peace he had guarded for centuries. He knows that she is right. The white needle in the void was a thread that leaves and songs could not stop. "And when will you rescue this source?" Tondil asks. "What then? What do you expect? The department to simply say merci and let you walk away?" "I don't care what they say," Martha spits. "I am going to take him. I am going to reclaim what is mine, and I will turn the spire's own frequency against Dardan until there is nothing left but ash." Tondil watches her for a long time. He sees the agony in her eyes, the way she is holding onto her sanity by a thread. He also sees the love she was trying to hide, a desperate, hungry thing that looks very similar to her magic. "The 10 is ready for you," Tondil says finally. He gestures to the shadows behind his throne. 10 elven mages step forward. They are young, their faces are pale and determined. Their eyes are wide with the holy terror of their duty. They had been told this was a sacrifice for the forest, a way to feed the storm so it would spare the trees. They form a circle around Martha. Their hands are glowing with a soft silver and green light, the pure, unrefined energy of the world's organic core. Begin, Tondil commands. Martha closes her eyes. It starts as a trickle. The elven magic was cool, like a spring water on a burn. It starts flowing into her, acting as a buffer for the jagged, violent power of the archmages. The elven magic didn't merge with the stolen mana. It acted like a cooling agent, wrapping the white-hot energy in layers of organic resonance so it wouldn't shred her cells. Ah, s'il vous plaît, she whispers, the relief momentarily washing over her like a tide. But it wasn't enough. The void inside her was too deep. The pressure of the 12 archmages was a tsunami, and the elven magic was just a small dam. The hunger, suppressed for so long on earth, suddenly roared to life. Martha's red magic didn't just accept the gift. It lunged. She let out a jagged, guttural scream as her shadow lengthened, turning into a mass of grasping obsidian flames that erupted from her back. She didn't just take the gift, she tore it out of them. "Enough!" Tondil shouted, half rising from his throne. Martha didn't stop. She couldn't. The cool trickle became a flood, then a torrent. The elven mages stumbled. Their silver light was being ripped from their eyes and mouth, flowing into Martha in thick, luminous ribbons. She felt the internal pressure easing. The feeling of being torn apart faded into a manageable ache. Her skin regained its healthy, lethal flush, and her eyes were burning with a renewed, predatory fire. One by one, the mages collapsed. They weren't dead, but they were husks. Their magical cores were extinguished. Their skin was gray as ash. They would survive, but they would be forever diminished. Martha stood in the center of the circle, breathing heavily. The violent, messy licking was gone, contained now with her stabilized aura. She looked at her hands. They were steady. The gold glow under her skin was now a deep, controlled crimson. "You really are a monster, Martha," Tondil whispered, looking at his fallen mages with a grief that looked like aged stone. "I am the monster who is going to win," Martha replied. Her voice was now clear and commanding. She looked at Tondil with a cold smile touching her lips. "Thank you for the 10, mon ami. It was nécessaire." But even as she spoke, a dark, logical certainty settled in her mind. The elven 10 was a temporary patch, a bandage on a mortal wound. The archmage power she held was still a tsunami, and her body was failing under the pressure of its presence. She realized that even after she rescues Max, she would never be normal again. The elven cooling magic would eventually evaporate, and the white-hot mana would begin to shred her once more. She was beyond saving by any conventional means. The only thing in all the worlds powerful enough to permanently anchor the chaos inside her, to act as the permanent lid for the lightning she had swallowed, was the gold essence itself. She didn't just love Max. She needed him to survive, to keep herself from burning out, to keep from becoming a ghost. She would eventually have to take him into herself. She would have to consume the source until they were one singular golden heartbeat. "The source you speak of," Tondil's voice catches Martha in her thoughts. "The one at level 81. You intend to free him?" Martha pauses. She doesn't look back. The image of Max's face on the beach flashes in her mind, and then it is replaced by the image of her own translucent, dying hands. I intend to make sure he is never used by the department again, she says. She didn't mention that the only way to truly protect him was to bring him inside her. In her view, the only safe place for a treasure was in the stomach of the dragon. She wouldn't let him be a battery for the White Order. She would make him the heart of her own survival. "Ready the armies, King," Martha called out as she stepped onto the bridge of light, descending towards the portal that would take her back to the Simeon corridor. "The spire is going to fall, and I need someone to catch the pieces." She vanished into a swirl of leaves and shadows, leaving Tondil alone in his silent silver city. He looked at his withered mages and then at his own hands. He had made a bargain with the hurricane, and as the wind began to pick up in the branches of the great sentinel, he realized he had no idea where the storm would stop. Martha was no longer just a girl looking for a human she loves. She was a stabilized weapon of mass destruction, driven by a love that had finally, inevitably turned into a need for possession. She was heading straight for level 81, and balance help anyone who stood in her way.